cause I don't give a fuck what you say. Yeah, I'ma do shit my way. So you can go kick rocks, I'ma stack bricks up, build what I want to make. Yo, I got a lot of shit to say, so I'ma do this every day. I'll be writing things until I'm fucking buried in my grave. 6 feet deep under, but my body won't decay, cause my messages are timeless, so they'll put them on display. Oh yeah, I rap with a certainty, I have a sense of urgency, a message for eternity, for everyone internally. I had some people burning me, but now they fucking learn to see I ain't the one to fuck with. Now they looking nervously, and I don't really care what you think of me, respectfully. You can kick rocks if you think you're fucking better, see I will outwork you, turn you to an enemy, hurt you so bad that you're gonna need some therapy.
Hey Mike, what's going on? How you feeling today? You all right?
I haven't been sleeping good.
Well, what's wrong?
What's wrong?
Yeah,
I've been
what's
having
wrong?
nightmares since you brought in that scary clown, JJ Escobar with the mask. There's hillbillies from hell that I'm thinking of being attacked in the Appalachian Mountains. I can't sleep anymore. Now listen, I know we got Michael Krueger, but I want. You assured me he's not going to wear that mask.
No,
right?
he's not going to wear it, Mike. You don't got to wear it.
I can't take it anymore.
No.
Poor Gorby hasn't been able to sleep either. All right, the poor guy has been squirming.
All right, they cuddle with me yet?
No, I'm like, no, listen, it's serious. I can't sleep.
All right. Yeah, no, he's not going to wear the mask. You don't got to worry about that.
And you told him if he needs to wear the mask, he can wear something.
Yeah,
I'll have a sheet in front. No, he'll have a sheet or something.
Yeah. You don't got to worry about it.
Okay, because I can't take it anymore.
Yeah,
all right, good.
Fine. He's on. That's Michael Krueger.
Oh my! You told me I can't do it. I can't do it.
Mike, sit down.
Look, I can't sleep anymore. You're killing me.
Sit down, Mike.
No, I
You
can't.
can do it.
I'm not going to look at
You
him.
can close your eyes. Close your eyes. He's going to close your. Sit down, Mike.
You're killing me. All right, I've already been exposed to him. I am another week and no sleep.
Well, Michael, we have Michael Krueger, Deathmatch Superstar 2018 Crimson Cup winner with us. Michael Krueger, thank you for joining us today. How are you doing?
Doing good. Thanks for having me on, guys. Sorry, I'm scaring you a little bit, though.
Oh, he seems like a nice guy.
He's shaking over here.
He seems like a nice guy.
You could do it.
I thought he was going to yell and like,
No.
okay, all right, I think I can handle this. But next time,
No. We'll get you next time. How's everything going over there? How's the weather?
Good actually. I live in Arizona, and it just started heating up over here. I think it was like 99 today, so gonna get that good old Arizona heat coming in soon, which I'm not a huge fan of, but we did get a longer cold season than we usually do. So
I've been there. I've been to Arizona, Tucson, Phoenix, Tucson. The Grand Canyon. Yep.
Yeah, I'm out of Tucson.
You're in Tucson?
Yep.
Oh yeah, man, they got good Mexican food down there.
Oh yeah.
Love it down there. I like it.
So first question we ask everyone: what was your first introduction into pro wrestling?
Oh man, I mean, it was something that was just like in the family. My grandparents watched it. My dad and my mom watched it. So like growing up as a 90s kid, I grew up with the Attitude Era, and I think like my biggest infatuation with wrestling, and this shouldn't be a surprise to anybody, but it was Kane. He was my favorite wrestler growing up, big monster gimmick. So it translated into my own pro wrestling gimmick once I got in there.
Oh, okay. And what was the first show you ever attended?
Oh man. Well, I had gone to a few indie shows and stuff when I was younger, but probably like a Raw in like the early 2000s was like my first like big wrestling show I went to, and probably like my greatest wrestling memory.
Oh, that's great.
Your first big show is always the big that you remember, yeah.
Yeah, because like I had been to some local stuff here and there that my dad would take me to, but yeah, they weren't very memorable shows. They were just some stuff in the VFW with a bunch of local guys.
Oh, okay.
Wow. And at what point were you like, I want to do this? I want to be a pro wrestler.
I mean, since I was a little kid, bro, like I always like saw myself in wrestling, but it became more of a reality when I was in high school, and I was really good at high school wrestling, and all the guys used to give me shit, for being like, a fan of pro wrestling, because, that's it's not real wrestling or whatever the fuck. But even though I love that aspect of my life, I knew once I had the opportunity to, I was going to go train and at least take a crack at it.
Oh, that's great.
So you did amateur wrestling.
Yeah, so I was a folk style wrestler and Greco-Roman freestyle. I did all of that shit in high school, and I started when I was in middle school, and I did it up until my senior year, and I was actually going to wrestle in college, but I ended up getting kicked out of my high school, and I lost a scholarship I had going for me. So that's another reason why I ended up coming into pro wrestling.
Oh, wow.
Wow. We talked to a lot of guys. Drake,
Sean Henderson.
Henderson, Dirty Ron. They all have amateur experience. I like that about the indie guys that have that, because it kind of reminds me back in the day when, like, Vern Gagne and Luthez, and you had to know some amateur to get into pros. You're just not walking in there without any experience. So
well, it definitely helps too. Like, I feel like in pro wrestling, especially when you're just starting, people respect you a little bit more if you had an amateur. I hate to even call it amateur wrestling. I just feel like folk style Greco-Roman freestyle wrestling, because like in reality, it's not amateur wrestling. It's real wrestling. But I feel like it gets you more respect when you have that type of background going into this business.
Yeah, you know what? It is right. You know what? I never thought of that. We call it amateur wrestling, but professional wrestling and amateur wrestling are two completely different things. It's not like saying professional boxer, amateur boxer.
Yeah,
they're exactly the same. But
it's a total different art form.
Yeah, he's the first one to tell me that, and now I remember that. Yeah.
Don't give me too much credit. What the hell is his name? Cal Jack. He's a SoCal wrestler or California wrestler, and I think he's in Vegas now. He posted something about like how he liked how Cody Rhodes called his wrestling background folk style and freestyle wrestling instead of amateur. So don't give me too much credit. I just saw that. I was like, yeah, he's kind of got a point there.
Yeah, we can't mess with that. Like an amateur wrestler will take you down. Have you ever had to use your? I mean, you could use it in pro wrestling, but in the streets or anything, did it ever come in handy?
Absolutely, dude. Like, I mean, my first move, if I'm in a street fight, is to double leg somebody on their head. It's definitely helped when it comes to handling myself outside of competing.
Oh, okay. That happened like that. That's happening. I mean, you don't have to say it much.
Well, yeah, dude. I've been in street fights and stuff like that. I mean, throughout high school and stuff. Especially being a high school wrestler. At my particular high school, wrestling was kind of not a very popular sport, and people used to like to try themselves with the wrestlers. And to be honest with you, I wasn't on a great wrestling team, so a lot of them got their asses handed to them. But I had a couple of people try me a few times, and double leg takedown, dump their head on concrete. That always kind of settles the score pretty fast.
Yeah, they'll take you down. You can't mess with. Don't. No. That's why even a guy, let's say he's 150 pounds, 140 pounds, like Sean Henderson, he'll take you down. You can't. And then he'll tie you up, and then breast your arm and dislocate your socket and stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So you're undefeated in the street fights. That's good.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely and like even like when you look at like actual fighting, like professional fighting, MMA and stuff, some of the best MMA wrestlers in the world and in the history all had a folk style or a Greco-Roman freestyle background.
Okay, good. Yeah. I always respect that, man.
For sure.
Oh yeah, the amateur wrestling. I never got into it. But yeah, you can't mess with one. Yeah, I would never mess with an amateur wrestler. You can tell by the cauliflower ears. You guys got cauliflower ears, do not mess with him. Yeah. He is in some kind of fighting situation.
Yeah.
Do not mess with him.
Yeah, that's a good cue to know that guy has been through some shit.
Yeah. Make fun of his ears. Forget about it.
Forget it. Yeah, you're done.
Yeah.
So we'll go back to training. What made you start training?
Well, I got kicked out of high school. And you know, it's not a great story, but it's kind of funny looking back on it. So I was in my senior year, and I was basically set to win state for folk style that year. I'd won Greco-Roman state and folk style or freestyle state a couple of times, but with all that stuff, at least in my state, folk style or freestyle and Greco-Roman is more club wrestling, and then like when the wrestling that you have in school is folk style. And I wasn't like great at folk style, but I was good enough, and I had placed fourth in my junior year, and then my senior year, I was undefeated, and I was really kicking some ass, and I was set up to win state that year. And but I had hurt my knee, and this will be a reoccurring theme when I talk about my pro wrestling. I fucked up my knee, was out for a while. I'd come back, and I had a really intense match, and of course, my principal had seen this intense match. I mean, I'm talking, I really like beat up on the kid pretty bad. And then the Monday after that, we were in the wrestling room, and we had boxing gloves, because what we would do is we'd beat up on a heavy bag during training, as you know, cardio and stuff like that. And me and this other kid had boxing gloves on. He tried boxing me, and he was way smaller than me. I threw a jab and accidentally knocked him out cold. So then he went to the trainer. The trainer complained to the coach and complained to the school administrative staff. And I ended up getting expelled, got, kicked out of the school, and they were threatening to charge me with assault on school grounds. Even though the kid knew it was an accident, my school was just trying to make it a huge fucking thing, and they totally fucked me over really bad. And I ended up, losing scholarship opportunities and everything like that. So once that happened, I was at such a low point in my life, because, here I am, ready to win state, ready to go and wrestle in college and shit. And all of that was taken away from me. So the only thing that seemed smart to do at that point was to, go take a crack at pro wrestling, because it's something I always wanted to do. It was my dream since I was a little kid. So right after all that shit happened, I was 17 at the time, and I found a pro wrestling school that was local, and I started going. And then fast forward, I think, what was it? I started training in, I think it was like early February of 2014, and then I had my first match in August of 2014.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
I feel bad for him losing his scholarship and everything because of that. Because you know what? Nowadays, they try to downplay the. Back then, they were taking school fighting serious. Now they try to cover it up. So they would have brought both kids in there, be like, they were both playing around, and it's a mutual combatant thing, and they would say, well, you were fighting too, and they would have dropped it. It wouldn't have even been maybe a suspension, because they don't want the school record. Now they try to cover up the school records. So that would happen today. They probably wouldn't have done anything to you.
Yeah, it was really shitty, especially because, I was friends with the kid that I hurt, and he knew it was an accident, and he knew, and he told everybody it was an accident as well. His parents didn't have any fucking problem with me, because they knew me. I was captain of the wrestling team, so everybody, they knew me pretty well, and knew I wouldn't try to just go and beat the shit out of some kid smaller than me. We were just fucking around, and the accident happened, but the school just made it a huge fucking ordeal, and it sucked at the time, because folk style wrestling, Greco-Roman freestyle, that was my whole life, from the time I was 12 years old until I was 17. But it was a shitty situation, but it also gave me the opportunity to come and do something that I always wanted to do. So looking back, I'm not as bitter as I used to be about it, but I feel like things could have definitely been handled differently.
Oh, wow.
It's terrible. Yeah,
it is terrible. So walk us through your first day. Your first day, you joined the wrestling school. What's the first day like? What did they have you do?
So because I was, I wasn't 18 at the time. For my first 3 months of training, they would not let me bump or do fucking anything. Um, Once I turned 18, they started letting me bump and stuff. But my first day was just them teaching me roles, teaching me, all your basics basically that you need to know that don't involve bumping. And I was in really good shape at the time. I was fresh out of high school. I was a 220 pounder. And I
Wow.
think around the time I was training, I was probably like 230, 235. And I was in really good shape. So it didn't phase me much. And I did better than a lot of people in my class. I was kind of like the star pupil out of our wrestling class, which is why I ended up being able to have a match so early on. Because I know people that they trained for a year or a year and a half, and they had their first match, but due to just to the circumstances of how fast I was learning, and I think amateur wrestling sure as fuck had a huge part of how everything grasped together for me. I got to have my first match pretty quick.
I go to amateur wrestling because the school I went to won a lot of state championships here in Delaware, and I used to like amateur. And when they practice at the beginning, they do roles that I've seen on Tough Enough where they've tried all day and they can't get the role. The basic right?
It's very like that was the thing that was surprising to me, honestly, was that like all the roles and stuff we were doing, there was stuff I was doing in amateur wrestling for years and years and years. Because that was always your warm up in amateur wrestling. You're doing the front row, you're doing they used to call it judo rolls, which is a 3/4 roll in wrestling. So all of that stuff really just clicked right away because I had been doing it for so long already.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. So are you going to go on?
Yeah, I was going to say
back to the school. Yeah.
Well, not back to school. Your first day, you're 2014. You're 18 years old, right, for your first match. Walk us through that. How nervous were you walking into the building, knowing you're going to have your first match?
Well, I had no clue. So somebody didn't show up. It was a lucha promotion called Titanus Promotions, and they used to run out of this swap meet in Phoenix every Sunday. And somebody didn't show up that day. And at the time, my trainer, he had told me, make sure you're bringing your gear every time you come here. Because I'd go to the show, help out, hang out in the back, get to watch the show and do all that. And that day somebody didn't show up, and it was I think it was like the second or third match on the card. So the promoter asked my trainer, he's like, does he have his shit? And he said yeah, and he's like, all right, we're gonna throw him in there. And I wasn't expecting it at all. I just I just did what my trainer told me to, and I had already had all my, like, within the first 3 months of training, I got everything because I already knew what I wanted to be, and I already bought all the gear and everything to have it ready. So I didn't even know, and then when I found out, like, obviously it was scary, but looking back at it, that my first match, I didn't do much. I think I did it like a shoulder block. I took a DDT, and that was about it. It wasn't like, an extravagant first showing for me, but I was in there with a lot of people that, were years and years and years ahead of me in the business. So I just went in, did my job, and got out. And then afterwards, I started getting booked regularly for that lucha promotion. And for the first, I would say probably my first 20 matches, maybe 20, maybe a little bit less than that, but I had just been doing lucha shows right off the bat, and that was like what got me out there, getting my experience and stuff. And then eventually I started doing other shows as well, but Lucha Libre was like my first introduction to wrestling, and then after a few months of doing that, I started getting booked on regular American style shows.
Oh, wow. You didn't wrestle in Mexico, did you?
Once I did, actually, but that wasn't until later on. I wrestled once in Mexico. and it was a little weird. It was so it was in Tijuana. I went up there with Max X. I think he goes by Miggy Rose now. He wrestles for MPW in California. Me, him, and Supreme, which I'm sure you guys know Supreme. The three of us went up there to Mexico. I think it was December of 2016. And at first, I thought me and Max were supposed to wrestle because that's what we were told. But then last minute, we heard that we're in the main event. We're tagging me and Max and Supreme are going against Bestia 666, Damien 666, and Psychosis.
Oh wow.
Which was like the whole car ride up there, me and Max are trying to figure out what we're gonna do. And then we got there and they're like, "Oh no, bro, you're in the main event with us." And we're like, "Oh shit, we're like actually wrestling like luchador legends tonight." So definitely that was such a great experience too. I was nervous as fuck, being a white boy going down to Tijuana, Mexico. I was definitely a little weary about how things were going to go, but I got to give Supreme some props because not only is he a legend down in Mexico, like there's so many people that just respected the fuck out of him and what he had done in XPW. And I think XPW was pretty popular down in Mexico as well. He just made sure to take care of me, made sure. And like once I got there, he's just like, anything you need, let me know and I'll get it for you. You need weed, you need beer, you need, whatever. I'll hook you up. And it was a great night, great experience, and definitely one of my favorite wrestling memories.
Was that was right? Like, is that real? I've been to Tijuana. There's like that little tourist area where all the shops and restaurants are. Mm-hmm. Is it like that arena that's right next to downtown?
No, so this was like, it was like in some fucking hole in the wall place. It was actually, it wasn't like a legit show. So what it was it was like there's some famous dentist that was throwing a party and like his entertainment was lucha. So it was one of those weird things where it wasn't a promotion. It was something, it was like just a set thing, but he had some names on there. I mean, I'm trying to think of his name off the top of my head. I think his name, he wrestled in Lucha Underground, Dragon Azteca, I believe his name was. They had like a bunch of Lucha Underground people on the show at the time. Famous B was on there. Lucha Azteca. I feel like Ray Phoenix may have been on the show as well.
Oh, wow.
So they just compiled a bunch of famous luchadors basically to come down here, get paid, and wrestle for this dentist and his company party.
Oh, okay. Oh, that would never happen here. Can you imagine a doctor having a wrestling show in Delaware?
I know, but that's cool.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I like it.
I heard a lot of stories down in Mexico. They get together. They have a cousin that's a wrestler, and he gets everyone together and put on a little little show for a party.
Yeah.
I seen Psycho Clown do that once, actually. He's a huge legend down there.
Oh, yeah.
He was hosting at a party, and I was like, oh, that's pretty sick, full gear, pretty sick.
Yeah, that's a good birthday party.
Yeah, no shit, right?
So your first match, you said you kind of got thrown out there. Was that against another student?
Oh, no, it was me and my trainer at the time. His name is Lawrence Tyler, and he if any of you Arizona wrestling people are watching, you would know him. He's been around forever. He was in WWE developmental for a little bit. He's actually like the head trainer at Arizona Wrestling Federation, which is a company that's pretty popular down here. But at the time, he was just so I'll rewind a little bit.
Okay.
So when I first started training, I was being trained by Gabriel Gallo and Don Vitale, along with this guy, Shadow Fox, which was one of their students. And Gabriel Gallo and Don Vitale, at some point, they just decided that it wasn't really worth their while to be training people where we were training. So they kind of left me out to dry, and Shadow Fox was, he was helping me the best he could. And I started just showing up to these lucha shows that Shadow Fox was a part of. And this guy, Lawrence Tyler, he walked up to me and just he you know, he knew Shadow had told him that I was an amateur wrestler, and that's kind of why him and I connected, because he was too, and he was like, "Oh, I want to train you." So him and I started doing training sessions outside of my normal stuff, and then eventually he came in and took over the training that I was at. So yeah, I was kind of like tossed around a little bit there at the beginning, but Lawrence, when I tell people, you know, who trained you, I tell them Lawrence Tyler did, because he basically helped me get the fine tunings I needed. You know, at the time I was fairly ready, but he modified a few things, did some stuff that he saw that I could do better, and then I trained with him. I think Dom and Gallo left probably like when I was like 6 months in, and then Lawrence picked up from there, and then a couple months later I had my first match.
Could let me ask you a question? Could you, if you didn't tell them you were an amateur wrestler, could you play? Would they be able to pick it up like this guy's like by your moves?
I had not told anybody, and this is a funny story.
Yeah.
So I had not told anybody I was an amateur wrestler, because I for whatever reason, my brain, I was just like, maybe that could get me some issues or whatever. So I was very quiet about it. But then we used to do this thing in training called Shark Tank. And what Shark Tank was you go in there and you basically shoot amateur wrestle somebody until submission. Whoa. And like, you know, 100% like, you know, shoot, you know, no bullshit. And they decided to do that, and I beat everybody like pretty fucking convincingly. Like, and I'm talking, you know, I'm 17 at the time. I'm beating up fucking 36-year-old men, and they're just like, what the fuck? And I told them, I was like, well, I have an amateur wrestling background. I've done some jiu-jitsu and some stuff like that. So that's that's why. And then after that, I couldn't, you know, they just called me Shooter Mike all the time, because that's what they identified me as. So I didn't tell anybody right away, but I do think in wrestling, if you are amateur wrestler, you could tell. Like, you know, you guys know Casanova Valentine.
Yeah.
He's another guy that, you know, has a pretty extensive amateur wrestling or high school wrestling background, and I think he wrestled in junior college as well. And like you could see the way he throws people, like when he's doing his belly to belly suplex. I mean, it's a beautiful arc, and the way he throws that, you can tell.
He's fluid, even though he's big. So were you having fun? How many guys did you shoot on? I mean, I know you didn't hurt them, but how many guys did you take on one after another? Because I'm interested in that. That must have been fun, right? How many guys?
Yeah, I think it was 6 people. And I remember I felt so bad. The first or second guy I wrestled, when I was doing that, I totally blew his knee out with a knee bar, and I felt like so bad because I didn't try to do it, but I just wrenched it, and he already had a bad knee, and it fucking tore his knee to shreds. and like looking back, that's probably not the best thing to be doing in your pro wrestling training, is shooting on people, but it was just those were all old school guys, and it was just something that they always had in their training. So when they did it, and they looked at me, they were like, it was an interesting experience, because they were just all like, "What the fuck? Like, where did you get this kid?"
Yeah, I could see the shoot fighting, but at a limit. Like, okay, look, we're gonna grapple like kids in a playground, but look, no joint, like maybe you can maybe get the guy in a headlock and make him give up, but we don't want you doing a quick move to tear his knee. I know you. Yeah.
This was like straight up, and like, if you've ever been to jiu-jitsu or anything like that, it was straight up just rolling with somebody and doing submissions until they tapped out. So again, looking back, probably not the best thing to implement into your pro wrestling training, because a lot of people could get hurt. And I don't think a lot of schools do that anymore. No. But it was a very old school style. Like I was taught very old school. I mean, even with the whole thing I talked about earlier, bumping and not being able to bump for basically 3 months. That wasn't just a thing because I was young. Like that's kind of how they introduce people into wrestling, because you know you're going and you're just rolling and rolling and rolling and rolling and rolling. A lot of people are going to be like, "Well, I want to learn how to fucking suplex a motherfucker," or I want to, you know, I want to learn how to do a DDT, and you know that was just off limits for you for your first couple of months of training, because you need to get your basics down first. I think a lot. I know there's some schools out there that are like that still, but a lot aren't, and that was just it was a very very old school style.
No, I believe that. That's good. Yeah, you got to do that. You can't throw people in there.
So you make your debut late 2014. You go out there, you do your thing. 2015, you start with Underground Empire Wrestling.
Yes.
How did you get with AEW?
Oh yeah,
not AEW, UEW.
UEW. Yeah. So UEW. First, I just got to put over. I love that. I love that company to death. They don't run very often anymore, but back in the day, that was just, it was really the place to be. The only way I could describe it was the fans were so fucking nuts, man. Like I'm talking ECW style. You know, they're if they didn't like you, they let you know, and if you fucked up, they let you know, and they were just wild as fuck. And I saw another wrestler in my state that started getting booked on those shows. So I reached out to them, and again, back to the amateur wrestling thing. The guy who ran the company at the time was Andre Verdun, also known as Youth Suicide. He had wrestled for XPW, also wrestled for Wrestling Society X. He was very big on, and he had asked me right away, like, "Do you have an amateur background?" And I told him, "Yeah." And that's basically what got me booked. Even though, you know, I doing the monster shit I don't do a lot of, you know, technical wrestling or anything like that. But he wanted people that knew how to wrestle his show. So that's kind of how I first got in there. I just, you know, I reached out to him. He found out I was an amateur wrestler, and he's like, "All right, you're booked." So I came in there. I think it was either June or July of 2015. It was for their Pledge of Allegiance show, night 2. I had wrestled this kid Zero, and at the time I was nervous as fuck. I'd only wrestled in California once. Prior to that, I wrestled for AOW. I think it was back in like maybe November of 2014. So this was my first big out of state booking, and I was nervous, but I came out there, I did my shtick, and they really liked it. And after that, I had gotten, they basically just asked me, they were like, "Do you have any interest in deathmatch wrestling?" And I had been a fan of deathmatch wrestling for years and years and years. I mean, I grew up on that shit. My dad used to buy XPW tapes. We were a big ECW family as well. So I was just like, yeah, I'm totally down for that, because, you know, I'd never thought about doing it up until that point. But when the opportunity was there, I just took it. And then afterwards, I got thrown into a storyline with JD Horror. Against Cole. I was a part of a group called the Resistance, and it was me, EC Killer, Insaniac, and this our manager, who was his name is Slamming Stu. He also used to work XPW back in the day, and it was us four against Cult Fiction, which it was like a new rebirth of Fiction. Billy Graham came into UEW, and he had JD Horror, Sage Sin, and I think Homeless Jimmy was kind of in there. He wasn't part of Cult Fiction, but he's a part
Masada.
of Masada, and so that's kind of how I got into deathmatch wrestling as well, was through UEW. and they gave me my first opportunity, and getting to work with people like that was just, it was really, really cool. I grew up, as a Masada fan. I fucking was a huge fan of him. Just watching YouTube videos, watching CCW shows and stuff like that. So I was very starstruck once I realized I was going to be in a storyline with Cult Fiction.
Oh, wow. Yeah, we know Billy from East Coast. He was out here with CZW and Brain Damage and Toby Klein and all those guys.
Brain Damage. Back in the day, dude, Brain Damage was one of my favorite wrestlers. He's actually a lot of I'm a big Kevin Steen guy, but the reason why I do the package pile driver is because of Brain Damage. He was the first person I ever saw do it, and when I saw that move, I was like, that needs to be my fucking finisher.
Oh, that was.
He was a nice guy. If you never met him, he was a really nice guy. He would have he treated everybody very good. Never big star, big it was a superstar or nothing like that. He's very friendly to everybody. I feel bad for him. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear a lot of that. I wish I would have got to meet the guy. Him and JC Bailey too.
Both good guys.
Bailey was a good guy too. Yeah, we knew them guys pretty good from the East Coast because we used to go to CZW. Sometimes I'd help out, pick up Brain Damage on the ride up for the airport. And those guys, he was a real nice guy. Billy Graham, Toby, all those guys. Yeah.
While you were with UEW, did you ever run into JD, the Hellware Assassin?
Oh, so funny story about the Hellware Assassin.
No, there's no. I don't believe there's a funny story about the Hellware Assassin.
So at some point, when I was a part of UEW, him and Billy Graham were kind of feuding. I got thrown into the mix with it. And him and I, at first were very, fuck you to each other. But then eventually, he was just like, you're a nice kid. I don't want to be fighting with you. You're cool. And I'm just like, all right, well, you don't want to be fighting with me. I don't want to be fighting with you. So I had never met him though, because at the time when he came to UEW, I had tore my ACL and I was out and fucking hurt and shit. So I had never gotten to meet him face to face up until when I won Crimson Crown, the Crimson Crown Crimson Cup in 2018. Him and I met, and he's just a cool motherfucker. I like the guy quite a bit. He went to Denny's with us afterwards when I was all cut the fuck up and concussed out of my mind eating a Grand Sandwich, and him and I are definitely cool now. And I was very happy to see him get his shot at XPW a couple months ago. That was pretty cool.
Oh, you saw that? Yeah.
He's still around.
Yep. Yeah, dude. He's an OG, man. He's an OG. So yeah, that dude's definitely on my nice list.
He's actually wrestling up there against Mr. California in I think it's a couple weeks.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah, up there in California. Yeah.
I won't say anything about Mr. California, but yeah, good for him. I'm glad he's getting more work out there.
Yeah, he's up there. He's up there doing his thing. Still kicking ass.
Funny thing about Hellaware is I've known him for 30-something years. I knew him when we were teenagers.
Oh, really?
And, yeah. In fact, we went to see we'd go to ECW, then I introduced him then he came to CZW, and then he started doing things here and there. And but yeah, he's a character. But he always wanted to be a hardcore wrestler way back, ever since he saw Sabu and Terry Funk in a barbed wire match. We were at that match, and he's like, I want to get into wrestling. I want to get into it. He got into it.
You were at the Terry Funk and Sabu barbed wire match? That's pretty
we were
rad.
there, yeah. Me and JD, yep.
That's honestly one of my favorite matches of all time. That's pretty crazy.
We were second row. Yep.
Funny thing about JD is when I met him, he always wants to wrestle. He always wants to wrestle. When he gets the opportunity, he delivers every single time.
Yeah. I know. He wrestled for his show.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. What show you run?
I ran a show back in November, XBW. We had Hellaware, Hellaware, Anthrax, We had a couple big names. They ended up canceling for one reason or another. But it was my first show I ran. Good experience. A little stressful, but I mean,
Where was that at?
In Westville, New Jersey.
Oh, okay.
Westville, New Jersey.
Shit.
BW. We had something like Christian Ross was on there. Dirtbag Dan. A couple good guys on there.
Fuck yeah.
Yep.
Back to Underground Empire Wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
So that's one of the matches I seen was the under the seat death match with JD Horror.
Yeah.
Oh man, what was the story behind that? Who came up with it?
JD came up with the match, and at the time I had only had a couple of death matches under my belt. I think I did my first death match ever was me and BC Killer versus Andre Verdun and Homeless Jimmy in a barbed wire boards match. And then afterwards I ended up having another barbed wire boards match. It was me and Kikyo Nakamura, who was a part of the Resistance at the time. I think they only used her maybe twice or three times, but anyways, it was me and her versus JD and Sage for that barbed wire boards match, and then afterwards it was eventually supposed to build up to me and JD in a one-on-one match at Hellbound, which is like UEW WrestleMania. They have it around Halloween time, and it's always like a crazy ass show. That match didn't end up happening, so JD wanted me to be the person that wrestled him in round one of the Sovereign Slaughter tournament. And I just remember him telling me, he's just like, well, it's going to be like fish hooks and all seashells and all this crazy shit. And I'm just, like, at the time, I'm shook out of my mind because, I barely taken any light tubes. I'd only taken light tubes once. So I was getting thrown right in there with some really intense gimmicks. But yeah, it was all his idea. And if you've seen the match, like I got a fish hook got stuck in my ear. And it was like in my ear, I swear to God, like half of the fucking match. We had put a fishing net, or not a fishing net, a pool net. And him and I at UEW, basically, like a lot of the deathmatch people, they'd be helping out making the gimmicks and just making sure they were safe and stuff. And I remember putting that thing together and just being like, who's taking this? And Jason's like, you. And I'm like, oh, okay. Hopefully it doesn't stick in my fucking ear holes. And sure as fuck, it went straight in my ear hole and got stuck right through my ear when he put the net over my head. And I couldn't get it out. And eventually in the match, the ref at the time, and I'm sure you guys know who this is, Guido. He was reffing at UEW at the time, and he got that shit out of my ear. And eventually, we got to working without my ear being torn apart. But another funny story about that match, actually. So when I got to the arena, I had brought all the fish hooks myself that we were going to use. I had a fucking pile of them, and Masada was there at the arena, and we were just hanging out drinking. And he looks at me and like, is like, what match you got? And I tell him, I'm like, oh, it's this Under the Crimson Sea. We're going to use fish hooks and stuff. And he's like, let me see the fish hook you got. And all the fish hooks still had the barbs on them. And he's like, bro, you're going to fuck yourself with these. Like, you need to cut the barbs off. So him and I spent, I swear to God, a couple of hours filing. He had a nail file on him, and we were him and I were sitting there filing down the barbs on the fish hooks to make it safe, so I didn't get fucked up. And looking back, I mean, if I would have fucking took a fish hook to the ear and then the barb was on the end of it, I wouldn't have ever gotten it out of my ear. So
you had to cut it. Yeah, that's tough. Yeah.
So Masada kind of saved my ass, honestly, when it came to that match. And I can't say nicer things about that guy too. He's a really, really cool motherfucker.
Oh, for sure. He's a badass. He's a badass, and yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy where he's at right now.
Oh, dude, yeah, he's killing it. I'm so glad that XPW is giving him like a strong push because he's without a doubt one of the best deathmatch wrestlers in the, not even just deathmatch wrestlers, just wrestlers in general that could go like he calls himself a hybrid wrestler, and he's 100% that. He can do any style with anybody and put on some great shit, and he's one of the best. There's a reason why he's a legend. Right there, that tells you that. And the fact that he was nice enough to sit with me for hours on end filing down fucking fish hooks to make sure I was safe, that in my book was just a really cool thing that he did for somebody that didn't really know what the fuck they were doing at the time.
So the name guys, like the legend guys, the guys that are bigger, that have been in it a long time and done that, they give you. Do you have to ask them for advice, or do they give advice, or how does that work?
Well, I mean, if you're working a match and you have a legend on the show, I think you're kind of doing your own self a disservice if you don't have them watch and give you some critique.
Okay.
Whenever I have matches and there's somebody that I really respect or somebody that's done a lot, like Masada, I always ask them, hey, watch my match, or do you have any critiques after it? And yeah, that's kind of how it goes usually.
Okay.
But the fact that Masada just right away was asking me, hey, what the fuck are you doing? And do you even know like the extent of how fucked up you can get from the stupid little fish hook that you didn't gimmick beforehand?
Right.
Oh, for sure.
I was going to ask you about the leading up to the death match. Did you have something?
I was going to ask. Yeah, I was going to ask you. We talk about the light tube gimmicks. You said you took some early on in 2015, 2016. That first shower, when you first took them light tubes, that first shower, all the deathmatch guys always tell me that shower is the worst.
I hear a lot of people say that, and me personally, I think the shower is kind of a relief because you have to understand, I'm coming from Arizona to California. I don't have the opportunity to take a fucking shower. So I'm sitting there with glass in me and fucking, just feeling like shit for, a 7-hour car ride back home. So the shower is kind of a relief, in my opinion, because I finally am able to get all the shit out of me. I could see like where I need to pick glass out of me and stuff like that. I mean, it does, it hurts a bit, but I don't think it hurts nearly as much as you're just sitting there and you're kind of moving around and you feel a piece of glass in your fucking elbow, or we could get into this later on, but there's times I've had glass in my ass and I've been sitting in a car for fucking 7 hours while it's just festering in there.
But wait, you won't will you try to take a shower at the venue or somewhere before you drive home? Don't you try to get it out?
I mean, usually you don't have that opportunity. Like with UEW, you did have that opportunity to take a shower after because they had a little shower in this, like, so with the UEW back when I was doing, or back in the time that we were talking, they had a whole arena that they rented, and it was like a warehouse basically, and the warehouse had a bathroom with a shower in it. But at the time when everything's getting all hectic and you're trying to watch a show and all that stuff, sometimes the shower is the last thing in your brain that you're gonna go do before you leave. So you're sitting there, you got glass in you, you're watching the show, and then it's time to go home, and you're just like, well, fuck it, I'm just gonna sit here and smell like wet pennies for the next 7 hours, and I'll just do it when I go.
See, these guys are another breed, because if I do something and I'm sweaty and I come in the house, mentally I can't be laying around here. I got to get a shower. Before I do anything, I got to get it. Or if I'm dirty, or if I did some outdoor thing and got dusty, I got to get a shower. If you told me to do 7 hours, I'd be like, no.
Yeah, dude. Well, I'll tell you, it isn't pleasant to be in a car ride, especially when you're in a car ride with a bunch of people that just, fucking put on 20-minute matches. We're all smelling pretty ripe on the way home. I feel bad. I feel bad what like actually when we go to like dinner or something afterwards, I'm sitting there fucking bleeding all over the fucking table and shit, smelling like ass. It isn't a glorious lifestyle.
Funny thing about that, did you hear about Mickey Knuckles getting in the what was it, the tournament, the girls tournament she had?
Angel of the Death.
Angel of the
Yeah,
Death.
when she cut her leg, yeah.
Right. We were supposed to have a dinner with Mickey Knuckles, a luncheon, and we had some fans, not making any money off it, just giving it to Mickey. And we had some fans set up. And then that night she cut herself and she canceled the CZW show. She was in the hospital for the whole night waiting. She still wanted to have the luncheon, and it was just me and a buddy, and we had all the fans that wanted their stuff signed. And we still took her to Bob Evans in Delaware, right down like 20 minutes from here. Ate dinner with her, just me, my buddy, and her and her boyfriend. And she had the glass, like she was still all crusty and everything, but she had all the glass out of her. But yeah, that was crazy.
That's probably like the worst thing about it is when you're all crusty and your blood is just like me. I'm a hairy motherfucker. So like I'll have like blood fucking, stuck to my chest. And I'm trying to pick it out and I'm picking hairs out of me and shit. And it's always sticky. Like that's the worst. But I mean, it just comes with part of the job, unfortunately.
Well, the funny thing about it is she was still like, you could tell she'd been in a battle, right?
Yeah.
And the waitress was like, you all right? And she, yeah, no, I just was in a couple fights last night. Like, what? Yeah, I was a wrestler. She's like, you're a wrestler. It's funny that like, the people that don't know anything about the deathmatch wrestling.
Yeah.
And they're like, what? You're a wrestler? I couldn't believe it. And then,
yeah, I've had some experiences like that. I remember after I won Crimson Cup 2, I had done a show 2 weeks after, and I was still like severely cut the fuck up. I mean, by the end of that show, my back and my chest and my arms were all hamburger meat. And I remember going to a Greyhound after doing this show in Vegas because that's how I was getting home. And then the security guard, like, I'm in a tank top, and he's just looking at me, and he's just like, damn, boy, you cut the fuck up. What the hell happened to you? And I'm trying to explain to him, like, wrestling, deathmatch. And he's like, why the fuck you do that shit?
Yeah. Oh, and that train station's way downtown, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, great. Well, like for a big portion of my wrestling career, it wasn't financially viable to just go and drive up there by myself. Unless I had a group of guys with me, because you pay all that money in gas and stuff. So I would just take Greyhounds on the way back home. I mean, we were talking about that under the Crimson Sea death match. I had taken a Greyhound back home after that, and I was all fucked up. And people, you definitely get some people looking at you funny. They're just like, "What the fuck did this guy do the night beforehand?"
I know that's funny to be with a wrestler like that. But they got that Southwest Airlines that goes from Tucson to Vegas for like $39. Didn't they have that deal? Or
you expect promoters to pay for a fucking ticket, dude? Like,
it might be cheaper. I don't know. They got I've been out to the West, and I know you can fly from like Phoenix to Vegas to LA pretty cheap.
You can, but also like, I mean, and this is I mean, anybody that does this shit, they know, like, a lot of times you don't get your trans covered. You gotta kind of pay on your own dime to get out there a few times. So doing stuff like I've gotten flights paid for me and stuff by certain promotions, but more times than not, they're just like, make sure you get here. And,
yeah. I got you.
I wanted to point out UEW. It kind of gave me that XPW feel. When XPW wasn't around, I feel like UEW picked up, and it drew in that crowd. That
100%
same kind of crowd. Good old UEW.
The big thing with UEW is there was a lot of XPW guys. Like going in there as a kid that watched XPW, I was so starstruck. You know, getting to meet people that had been a part of that. And you know, the booking and everybody, like I said, Andre Verdun, he had been XPW ring crew for a really long time. He had worked some XPW shows. Carnage too. Carnage, another XPW guy. BC Killer. He I believe wrestled for XPW at one point as well. And Supreme, of course. Supreme was a big part of UEW as well. So going in, I was totally starstruck because I didn't even I didn't put two and two together that the person Andre, because you know Andre's a lawyer, and I didn't fucking put two and two together that he was that guy back in the day with the bleach blonde hair, or the guy in the fedora that got fucking thrown off a ladder in fucking WSX. I didn't put two and two together, and then when I got there, I'm looking at these guys and I'm like, I've seen you before. Holy shit, I'm working with a bunch of people that I grew up watching, which was really, really humbling, just really awesome for me.
Okay,
that's great.
Do the veterans always like get their little advance, like their rank in the dressing room, like they get their like, you guys like I don't know the etiquette. What did they teach about the etiquette for like the veterans? You treat them a little differently in the
not necessarily. Like for me, I'm just like I'm not to toot my own horn, but I'm a nice guy, so I give everybody respect when I'm
okay, I got you.
And with UEW specifically, I mean, we were all dressing in the same room. You know, it's not a fucking extravagant backstage area. We're all kind of contained in this small ass storage closet, basically.
Oh, there's no rank there. Yeah, I got you.
But I mean, just with people in general, I think, you know, if you're a wrestler, you got to show respect to those guys and just, you know, let them know that you respect them. And that's always what I've been about with anybody that's come before me, even if they haven't done shit. If you've been in the wrestling business fucking years ahead of me, I'm not gonna I'm gonna show you some respect and, you know, make sure that that you know that I'm not some punk ass kid that just comes in there, because there's a lot of fucking people that go in, they just have no clue either.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. There's a lot of people that'll just come in that just watch WWE or whatever, and they don't realize like you're sitting in a room with a fucking independent wrestling legend.
Right.
You need to give them their flowers and at least, you know, show them enough respect to where they know that, you know, you're not somebody that's just gonna write them off.
Well, what would be example? You don't have to mention names. What would a guy do? What would a guy that doesn't know how to act? What would be something he would do that could
like move in another wrestler's bags or
what?
Fucking yeah. I mean, I've seen situations like that happen where like homeboy comes in, he gets all his shit set up, and then next thing you know, there's somebody sitting in his chair, and it's like, no, motherfucker, you need to sit on the floor. You know, give the chair to the guy that's actually done something. And a lot of times, you know, they don't know any better, and they just, you know, they kind of just do it. But I've seen some scenarios where wrestlers have had their stuff moved or somebody steals their chair, and they're just like, what the fuck? Like, that was my spot, and you took it. Why are you doing that? And like, I'm talking like, you know, some green wrestlers too that have only been in there, you know, less than a year or just a year in, and then next thing you know, they're stealing somebody's chair to go sit in it. I think that's the biggest thing. Like I've always been about is like, if I know you've done something, I know that you've been in the business longer than me, I'm gonna like personally, I'll give up the chair I'm sitting in for you. And that's just a sign of respect and a sign of like, hey, like I know you've done some stuff and you deserve this chair more than me. Again, a lot of this stuff doesn't translate really well into the wrestling business that we are in now. But I feel like back in the day, stuff like that was more important. And I don't necessarily think it is less important now. I feel like a lot of older wrestlers get kind of disrespected by younger wrestlers when it comes to certain things like that.
I'm not being a wise guy, but let's say somebody had like a nice cushion chair, and they said, I like to sit in a nice cushion chair, and you bring it with you to the show. Could you do that? Would that be weird? Or
I believe it or not, I have seen people that have like little there was this one guy I used to wrestle with, and he used to have this little step stool that would fold up into a nice little pocket that he could throw in this bag, and he would do shit like that.
Something I would do.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna get heat. I'm bringing my own stuff. And then someone would sit in it, they'd be like, and I'll be like, that's my chair. Like,
but even if somebody did sit in it at the me personally, I'd be like, if Masada goes and sits in my fucking chair, I'm not gonna tell him to get the fuck out of it,
I know. You can't win.
Yeah.
My name on it. This property of.
So in 2017, you debut and you wrestled for IWA Mid-South, the King of the Crimson Mask.
I figured this was coming up.
Absolutely. King of the Crimson Mask against Schlack. What's your and a fans bring the weapons match? What's your best memory of that match?
Oh, I mean, there's a lot of memories when it comes to just that whole experience. Schlack actually has talked about this before in interviews, and I had the same experience. I walked in there, I get in from the airport. I walk in there. I literally see Ian Rodden have somebody fucking by their jugular vein. Fucking, I guess they were stealing concessions or something. And he just fucking was going off on this dude. And I was scared shit. Like, I had already heard a bunch about Ian beforehand. I mean, obviously, if you follow deathmatch wrestling, you will. And I go in and I see Ian choke a motherfucker for stealing like a soda or something. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be a night. But then I got to the back and everything was cool. Ian showed me a ton of respect. He paid me very well for that event. And I don't have a bad thing to say about Ian Rodden personally, because when I came in there, he treated me like golden. At the time, it was all up in the air where the fuck me. So when we came down there, it was me, Max, and BC Killer. We all came up together, and it was kind of like let's get some UEW guys out here and get them more exposure type of thing. And when we got there, we had no clue where the fuck we were gonna sleep, what the fuck we were gonna do like after the show. It was just like, whatever happens. If we got to sleep in the airport, we will. And Ian Rodden personally took me, BC, and Max X all out to dinner afterwards. We went to dinner, and then we went back to his place. I believe John Wayne Murdoch was a part of that too, because I think he was helping Ian out with stuff at the time.
Yeah.
And they were also living together. So he took us to dinner. We went back to his place, basically just shot the shit, smoked some fucking weed, had some beers, had a good time. All of us got to take a shower, and we slept at their house. And I'll never forget this. John is I love John. Like, he's one of the best in the business when it comes to our style of wrestling. And I remember about to leave for the airport, and John he loads a bowl of weed for me right before I go, because he knows I like to smoke. And he's just like, hit this before you go, brother, on the road. And like, it was just a good experience. And
Yeah.
Going back to my thoughts about the match and the whole experience, like, I was very, very nervous as fuck. And obviously I had grown up watching IWA Mid-South, watching fucking, all the crazy matches they used to put on back in the early 2000s, you know, with CM Punk and AJ Styles, like crazy stuff.
Yeah.
So getting to work for a company like that, it was a huge honor and just a really awesome experience for being a fan of wrestling. So I was so nervous, but me and Schlack kind of hit it off right away. And we both knew what we were there for, to make a fucking train wreck happen. And I think by the end of the night, a lot of people had more eyes on both of us. I mean, this is Schlack before Schlack was, you know, blew the fuck up as one of the best deathmatch wrestlers in the world, like he is right now. I think this was even before he started working GCW. So
yeah, I remember that. He started with CZW.
Yeah. And it was just cool. It was cool to get to work with somebody like that, and then afterwards just watch them blow the fuck up as, you know, a total fucking icon of this shit now.
We remember him when he was in training. They made him go. He had to go to CZW school, and he was just a guard, you know, keeping, you know, setting up. Like he was just like anybody else that's at the show, a student. He was a student.
Yeah.
But he was bigger and older than the guys. And then once he got his first match, he just lost. He just took off. Yeah, they unleashed the Schlack. Yeah.
Yeah. At the point when I came into IWA, I wasn't watching CCW regularly, and I didn't even know who he was. But then I looked him up, and I was like, oh shit, it's the guy from Eat the Turnbuckle. What the fuck? Because I had heard of just being a death metal fan and fucking shit like that. Like I had heard of them before, and going into that, I was just like, oh damn, like I'm wrestling this guy. I used to listen to his fucking music back in the day. Like this is really cool. But then afterwards, I mean, he fucking skyrocketed.
I know.
I mean, he did that whole thing with Zandig, you know, his amazing match with Marcus Crane back in Howell, New Jersey. He blew the fuck up after. And it was really cool to see. You know, shortly after I had that match, I tore my ACL, and I you know, it sucked because I couldn't fucking wrestle or kind of reap the benefits of that match and to get to do other fucking because to this day, that's the one match everybody knows me for, is my match with Schlack at IWA Mid-South. And I didn't really get to reap any of the benefits from us having a match, but to get to see him skyrocket and, you know, get to do all this crazy shit, go to Japan. And, you know, right now, in my opinion, he is one of the best deathmatch wrestlers in the world doing this shit. And by far one of the best gimmicks in wrestling.
Oh, yeah. Those XPW guys, yeah, definitely.
Him and Krueger, that's up there.
Oh, yeah. Dude, in my opinion, Schlack, Masada, Drake, both those three are the best doing it right now. And then I mean, throw John Wayne up in there too, because he's fucking.
Oh yeah, fantastic. Murdoch, Eric Ryan, all those. Yeah, they all. So I was gonna, you know, we were talking about. Now, I'm not a wrestler, never been a wrestler, but when you like the mental preparation for the death matches. So when you get called up, we need you for this light tube death match or whatever. Now you take the booking, and then lead us up to like the mentality in your mind. Like when do you start, like you immediately start thinking like, what am I going to do? And then like, what about the day before the show? Do you feel differently up to the show, up to the last minute, up to like, can you guide us through the mentality?
For me personally, and this is probably weird for a lot of people, but I feel more comfortable doing deathmatch stuff because when I'm doing it, I don't need to think about selling or how I'm going to sell something because it really fucking hurts, you know? But one thing that does stress me the fuck out, and I had recently been a part of something where I had no clue what the gimmicks were, what we were doing, or anything like that. That kind of stresses me out because when I have an outline of what the fuck I need to take or what I need to do, that makes me more comfortable and it gives me more creativity with the ideas and stuff. And I don't need to worry about, thinking about what I'm going to call in the match before I get to it. But when you don't know, you just know you're going to be in a death match and you have no clue what is going to be there to, work with. That's kind of where it gets a little bit stressful. But, like I said, personally, going into death matches, I feel more comfortable because I know that, like, regardless if we fuck up a spot or we fuck up anything, somebody can take something and hit me over the head, and then we can get the crowd right back into it.
Oh yeah, so it's not like in a regular match where you like every little move has to be perfect.
Yeah,
like a little stutter step. Yeah, I see what you're saying. I know what you're saying. Yeah.
And that's not to say like deathmatch wrestling is easier or anything like that. I personally don't think it's easier. I think it's actually more complicated to figure out how to make good deathmatch wrestling. At least it's more complicated to figure out how we're going to work our way into hitting somebody or putting somebody through a pane of glass or something like that. But again, it's a good crutch when you don't know where the fuck you are. You could just hit somebody over the head with something, and then you can figure out where to go to after that.
Right. But what about when you won your tournament? What tournament? That was my next. The cup. Yeah. You had 3 matches, so now that's got to be a different mentality than one match, right?
Well, I'll talk about that. So we're gonna we'll transfer go into the whole Crimson Cup thing. Yeah, so I had no clue I was winning that fucking tournament at all. Nobody told me shit. And like I love Crimson Crown Wrestling to death, but that was so stressful because I thought that I was going to be out in the second round. And then in the middle of the fucking match, I was told I was winning the whole tournament. Whoa. And it was, and ironically, right beforehand, rest in peace, Marcus Crane. That dude is amazing. But he had threw a pumpkin at my head. And this fucking pumpkin gave me the worst concussion I've ever had in my life. Like
what? In the mouth, right in the middle of that, yeah.
Yeah, and like I don't even know why the fuck there was a pumpkin there, but there was. Marcus saw it and he tossed it on my head, and like it fucked me up. I didn't know where the fuck I was for a little bit. So then, like, eventually I got like my bearings straight, and I was like, all right, I need to eliminate this person. I need to do this. I need to do that. But then after, everybody got eliminated, it came down to me and JD. And I'm telling JD, like, yo, I'm fucked up. We need to go into the finish like now. And he's if you were there, you probably heard him talking to me. He's beating my ass. And it's just like, you're fucking winning it. And I'm like, what? I'm doing what? And he's like, no, you're winning the tournament. I need to put you over. And so it was that was one of the most stressful nights of my life because having to figure out how we're going to get into the finish, how we're going to fucking end this match, and how the fuck am I going to go and wrestle another match afterwards, being as concussed and loopy as I am right now. So, that was definitely stressful. Like the first match I had, like it was fine, but then like the second match, it turned into an all-out fucking war of a clusterfuck. And then hearing, oh, well, you still got one more to go after, I was like, oh, goddamn. Like this was not the way I saw me winning my first deathmatch tournament, but I mean, we got to make it work. And this is going back to John Wayne Murdoch. I wrestled him in the finals.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, I wouldn't have been able to do that match, I think, with anybody else in the world that was less of a professional, because he knew exactly how to get me through it, how to make sure, like, I was so fucked up afterwards, dude. Like, I mean, my ex-girlfriend at the time, there was a couple of days after, I just looked at her and I was like, who the fuck are you?
What?
Like, yeah, type of shit. Yeah, I was really, really messed up. So the fact that John got me through that match and it got me my first tournament win was just, I felt like it was a miracle at the end of the night.
God, that's crazy. You know, I didn't know that he had that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to watch that again.
Yeah, you can actually watch it on YouTube. They
Yeah.
have the whole event up on there, and you could see, like, yeah, I get this pumpkin thrown on my head, and I'm fucked afterwards. But John and I felt like we put on a decent match after the fact, especially all things considering. And I truly don't think I would have been able to get through that if it wasn't for somebody that was as professional and as good as he is.
You don't think of it a pumpkin, you think it's a pumpkin, but
Yeah.
it's a solid, it's like a bowling ball. That thing is
Yeah.
heavy. They don't just break. It's not
Well,
like
oh, and you could see, like, when it gets thrown on my head, like, the thing just splits in half, and like you could just tell it. There was no give whatsoever. But I mean, this is not faulting Marcus at all. When you're in a death match, you look at shit and you're just like, fucking do it. But it fucked me up pretty good. and to have to be, have to go through, like, I'm fucked up. I need to go and perform another match. I need to win this match. It was a very stressful experience.
See, you guys are so tough because I watch different sports. I watch basketball. I mean, I watch basketball. I watch soccer. I watch football, and I see guys getting carried off, and I'm like, what happened? And they show it on instant replay. He fell on his back. God. And every time I see a guy, I mean, not disrespecting those guys, but I'm like, I've seen wrestlers get thrown off 20-foot balconies through a table.
Yeah.
You got tackled on the ground. You know what I mean? On the grass. So.
Oh, dude, pro wrestlers are the toughest motherfuckers. Like,
no, they
in
are.
The world.
They are.
I mean, regardless of how you think our business is, with the fact that things aren't actually competitive, I wouldn't even say that. They are very competitive, especially when you see other people doing cool shit. You want to go and do cooler shit than them. But pro wrestlers, they go through some bullshit, and there's a lot of people that wrestle injured constantly, and I don't think a lot of people realize that. They just think, oh, well, they're going out there and acting. It's like, no, motherfucker, like, we're going out there and mutilating our bodies and wrestling with shit that hurt from fucking 3 matches back.
No, I know. So after you won that cup, how long did it take you to get back to like normal?
Well, I mean, I was fucked up for a week afterwards, or a couple weeks afterwards, but I ended up wrestling 2 weeks right after in Vegas. And like, luckily the match was short. It was like a fucking 6-minute squash match, but I was definitely really messed up. And then after that happened, after I had that match, I didn't wrestle up until the following February. Not just because I was loopy or anything like that, but mainly because I just wasn't where I wanted to be. And when I won, like, the thing about winning that deathmatch tournament and just everything I did at that point. So I was coming back from ACL surgery.
Oh yeah.
I tore my ACL back in March of 2017, and I got surgery around May. And so I was recovering. I was trying to come back earlier. I went and did a small little spot in UEW Slavner Slaughter 3. And when I got off the apron after doing this spot, I just jumped down and my knee felt like shit.
Oh,
And
God.
like it just hurt like a motherfucker. So I was like, yeah, I can't come back right now. Like I need to take some more time and kind of baby this thing. So I eventually came back to wrestling in August of 2018. I had a match with Tony Reyes at Gold Coast Wrestling, and then I went and I had a no ring death match with Casanova Valentine and Neil Cutter in Tucson, and then I went and did Primo Slave to the Death match, and after that, 2 weeks later, I went and did Crimson. So I don't know if you guys have seen or know about the Primos thing, but me and Schlack wrestled for a second time there, and he definitely beat the shit out of me with weed whacker pretty bad. So I was it was like going from no wrestling to going like 110%. And at the time, I was very out of shape. Like I did not take care of myself after I tore my ACL. I don't know if it was a mental thing or what, but I kind of just said fuck it all. I didn't really think there was a lot of opportunity for me coming back to wrestling just because I didn't think anybody would care. And then I came back and I fucking won this tournament, and I'm sitting here like in the worst shape of my life. Like, what the fuck do I do at this point? So after I took that booking in Vegas, I was kind of adamant that I wasn't going to wrestle very much longer. And then I did a show for Crimson in February of 2019. And at that point, I knew I wasn't where I needed to be in wrestling as far as being in shape. Mentally, I was fucked up. So I kind of I took my ball and went home for 4 years after that.
Wow, it's hard. Yeah. It's amazing some of those guys that never stop.
Like Necro.
Well, Necro stopped a little bit. Now he's back. He's in Japan. Necro's in Japan with Pondo.
Yeah, there's I think a lot of it's mental. Like those guys are very mentally strong, and I'll be 100% transparent with you. I let a lot of shit, at least back in the day, I let a lot of shit get to me, and I think like when I had all that opportunity right in front of my face, I knew that I kind of fucked up because I wasn't taking care of myself at the time. It fucked with my brain and just made me not want to do it anymore.
So I don't know how these guys do it. I mean, the GCW, the ICW guys with Tremont he'll have 2 death matches, then go to Boston the next day, then come back down and run a show on Monday. Just the travel alone would make me tired. I don't know how you guys do it. And saying some kind of training, it's a lot of respect to all you wrestlers. I mean,
it's pretty wild, dude. Like, even like you're talking about people having to do like matches back to back. Like, go look at the amount of times Casanova Valentine works. Like that fucker does, I swear to God, like 3 death matches a week. And I'm just like, dude, how the fuck do you do that? And he's way older than me. And I'm looking at him like, what the fuck? Like, what do you have inside of you that you could push through doing 3 death matches a week and then going to do it the same fucking week after week after week? I mean, and then traveling all over the world. I mean, it's pretty insane when you think about it. Especially like you tell somebody this from that doesn't know anything about wrestling. It's wild.
Oh yeah, and then sitting in the cars. These guys on the East Coast. Like Jimmy Lloyd wrestled on, he wrestled on Friday up in Detroit, and then he was in MLW Battle Royal.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean,
Big Joe impressing me a lot because he has to fly from England, and then he does all these matches, and he has to jump on red eyes just so he can get to the shoot job.
Yeah.
I
mean, I don't know. If I was that far out of town, I'd be like, I can't wait to just get home and sleep.
We're
ready to go to another show. It's unbelievable. Yeah,
working a shoot job afterwards, man. I mean, that shit's rough.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah, yeah.
You're sitting there trying not to bleed on equipment and shit, and you're just like, fuck.
Yeah.
Well, see, that's what's good. Like Drake, Necro is on a lot of the XPW guys are on a limited schedule. Like Drake, and Necro. Drake he has a business down there in Florida, and he just goes to major stuff now. They cut it out. Sometimes when you become a name, you just don't take all the small shows. You just take less.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, at times, I think that's actually smarter because, the less that you expose yourself out there, the, more people are going to be willing to pay a ticket.
Right. Oh, are you going to get that?
Yeah, I was going to show you.
Oh,
I'm a deathmatch. I collect deathmatch memorabilia. I collect wrestling memorabilia. I wanted to show you. I have one of these guys that you have.
Oh, no shit.
Crimson Cup.
The Crimson Cup.
That shit's sitting in my fucking closet right now. That's awesome.
Now you're seeing like the kind of guy that will keep that forever. You couldn't. It's priceless.
Oh, yeah.
For you, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, even though it wasn't, the best fucking wrestling memory I had. I mean, it was the first time I ever got like beforehand. I had never won a tournament. I had never won a championship. Never won a belt. Nothing like that. So that was like the first recognition I ever got for pro wrestling. And yeah, I couldn't part with that ever.
Yeah. Do you know every deathmatch guy we talk to, they say the tournament win is bigger than a title of their company. They would rather win the tournament. They'd rather go a couple rounds in a tournament or even get to the finals is a goal than winning the championship of the company. It means more to them. Is that true?
Yeah. I mean, I could see that. I mean, think about fucking the amount of struggle you have to go through to win. You're winning a fucking tournament. You're wrestling 3 death matches in one night. And sometimes you're wrestling even more than that, depending on how fucking big the tournament is.
Right.
I mean, that's kind of like a, pat on the back to yourself that you even went through all that shit just to get this thing.
That's right. I never thought of that. You could have a great match and win a title, but back to what I was saying, you can win. We were talking about the title of a company or a death match to a company championship. You can win a title and have one great match, 30 minutes or something, but you can't. You got to work hard to get a tournament championship, and you got to do good. You can't just call one show. You can't call one in. You got to do good all through the tournament.
Absolutely. Well, and the other thing too is just as a performer, you want to make sure all 3 of those matches are fucking good. That's a lot more stress on you than you're having to do one. And then next thing you know, like in my situation, you get fucking injured in your second match and you're fucked up. You got to somehow pull it together and make sure that you look good in the tournament final.
Yeah, God. Something else, man.
So once you won that trophy, what did that mean to you? Like holding that trophy, in the middle of the ring.
So you guys know Drew Chaos?
Yeah, absolutely. Great photographer.
Great photographer. He was a part of the deathmatch tournament I did that night too. He actually wrestled. And again, some of this was me being concussed. Some of it was just feeling like I was stupid for not taking care of myself up until the point. I told him, I was like, I feel like I don't deserve this. I started crying like right in front of him. I was just like,
wow.
I feel like I don't deserve this at all. And he's like, why? And I was just like, I'm in the worst shape of my life. I fucking, I got hurt and had if you go back and watch that tournament, the second match, the finish is really bad, like really bad. And there's actually a point where Jason, after that was supposed to be his retirement match, his whole thing was coming back to wrestling to put me over. And he didn't know I was concussed at the time. I just told him I was fucked up. But then afterwards, he obviously felt bad about the situation. But he got on mic and basically chewed me a new asshole right in front of everybody. And that hurt really bad because like a big part of me was just like, dude, you are getting the biggest opportunity in your life and you're not in shape for this shit. You basically have fucked off since you've been hurt and haven't taken care of yourself at all. And now you have everything that you've ever wanted right in fucking front of you. And so I was feeling really low at the end of the night, because I was hurt, because I just felt like I didn't deserve it. So me and Drew Chaos had a moment, and I was crying. And I just told him, I was like, I feel like I don't deserve this. I feel like a piece of shit for not taking care of myself. I don't know what to fucking do now. And again, that kind of translated into why I quit wrestling.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
You seem like an emotional person. That I respect you, man.
Yeah,
I mean, you
you
take the business serious, and you don't want any shortcut. Yeah.
Well, it was a rough situation, dude. Like, I tore my ACL, and again, like, I go back to that match with me and Schlack. He kind of blew up after that, and I'm looking at myself, and I'm like, I'm on the sidelines for a fucking year. This fucking sucks, and not to mention, like, there was a lot of outgoing factors that were happening in my personal life and also in wrestling as well. I let a lot of online shit talking get to me, and I kind of was at a point where I didn't think when I came back to wrestling anybody was going to give a fuck, but then they did, and I was like, oh fuck. Like, I fucked up. I shouldn't have let any of that get to me. I should have been training my ass off. I should have been in the gym, 5 times a fucking week and fucking going to training and taking care of myself and making sure I was ready for this big comeback. And I kind of just walked into it. I think I went to training twice beforehand. Like, I wasn't where I needed to be, and I fucking knew it. And to have everything come out to, me winning that tournament, Jason coming back to put me over, who, like, JD Horror, that's my big brother. Like, he's a huge part of my life, and he was a huge part of my wrestling career. The fact that he was coming back after, quitting wrestling for a year and wanted to put me over personally, and I wasn't where the fuck I needed to be. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you, dude? That's what I was saying to myself. And after I won that tournament, it was a great night, as far as me professional, but man, I was fucked up because I was just like, you just got handed the fucking golden goose, the golden egg, and you pissed it away by fucking up for these, couple of months beforehand. And I didn't think like I deserve it. I still, to this day, I feel like, everybody at CCW saw what I put in at UEW, and I was just, I'm proud of my run at UEW. I worked very, very hard. Yeah. I bled a lot for that fucking company.
No, don't be too hard on yourself. I mean, in the world of wrestling, you don't need to be. Don't be. I think you don't worry about it.
Oh no, I get that more now that I'm older, but also at the time, man, like, I'm a 23-year-old kid. I'm 27 now, but back then, I'm a 23-year-old kid that has known nothing but just pro wrestling. And like, that was my life. That's everything I fucking was putting my work into. And then to watch myself after I got hurt just kind of fucking not give a shit about it anymore. It was a total mental struggle inside of me. And I mean, we could talk about why I am coming back to wrestling now. I mean, I think a big part of the story, though, is that I was at my lowest when I left. Even though the best things in my career were happening, I was just at such a low point internally because I felt like I pissed away all this opportunity that was just given to me. And so I went to CCW, I think it was the end of February 2019. And a couple weeks beforehand, I told the promoter, because I was supposed to have this match with Terex, and I was supposed to go over, and it was supposed to lead into some other stuff. I think it was actually supposed to lead into me and Tremont, which would have been my dream because that was one of my heroes.
Tremont?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we know him. Yeah.
Yeah, because he was working CCW at the time, and I think what the idea was to eventually have me and Matt Tremont face off because I was the tournament winner and he's the decorated deathmatch legend. Uh, it was supposed to lead into that, and I remember telling the promoter, I was just like, dude, like I'm fucked up right now. I don't know if I still want to keep doing this, and let me give me a way out, basically. Even though that just sucks. I just won this fucking deathmatch tournament, and then the next show I'm gonna get taken out. It makes no fucking sense. And in my head, I'm thinking all this, but I knew at that point, like, I can't continue wrestling in this type of mindset or this physical shape. Like I said, I was fucking, I was in the worst shape of my wrestling career at the time. So, he gave me an out. I did the match, and I just remember that night doing that match was rough. I was like fucked up in the head beforehand. I didn't even know if I still wanted to do this thing anymore, if I was ever going to do it again. And I went out, did the match, got beat, got taken off or whatever. I think the whole finish was Terex. I was wrestling Terex. He moonsaulted onto my knee, and everybody knew I had a knee injury beforehand. So that was their way of writing me off. And then after that, I just I had a identity crisis thing happen where, like, I've done everything in my adult life involved pro wrestling, and now I don't have that anymore.
Wow.
I got very depressed, was drinking way too fucking much. Like, I'm talking like straight up when I woke up in the morning, fucking pounding 2 4 locos. That got me through my day, and then I fucking got blackout drunk with hard liquor at the end of the night.
Oh.
Yeah, dude. Like, I was, and due
Okay.
to that due to that lifestyle, I blew up to 460 fucking pounds. And I don't know what it was over the last couple of years, but I started thinking about wrestling a lot more. I started doing this horror podcast with guys that used to watch me wrestle at UEW. All the guys that I do FleshWoundsfeatures with, they're guys that have watched me wrestle in the crowd, and we just became friends afterwards. And I started doing the horror podcast. They were just like, dude, you should come back. You should come back. So I started taking care of myself better. I stopped fucking waking up and doing that morning ritual. And over the course of like 2 years, I lost 130 pounds. I got into the best shape that I have been in since before my ACL surgery. And at that point, a lot of other stuff happened in my personal life that kind of pushed me to do it. I lost a lot of family members. Old lady that I was with for a while fucking left me. I was just like, at this point, what the fuck else do you have to lose? So I started training again, lost some more weight, and decided I'm gonna make my comeback into this shit and see where the fuck it goes. I don't know how many years I got left in me, but just right now I'm here for the journey and just here to prove to myself that I could still do this shit. And this whole comeback and everything I'm doing now is just, it's for me. It's like, after all the bullshit in my personal life I went through, I I decided, like, I need to do something for me right now. So that's why I started training with 2 kids that I broke into the business with, and we started training back in August. And at first it was rough. I didn't even know if I was going to be able to do it again, but after staying consistent and everything, my body's kind of bounced back, and that's why I just made my return at Crimson Crown Wrestling's Violent World on March 30th. And it was really awesome to finally get back in there. And now I feel like, once I was in the ring, I felt like, all right, Like, you got this shit still, dude. Like, you could still do that.
You're only 27, man.
Yeah.
You look. Hey, listen. No matter what you think about your career, think of Pondo is like, I don't know, he's close to 50. And Negro's older, and they're in Japan. They would kill, like, when they were 27, they were like in. So you got plenty. I mean, you don't rush yourself. Just take it easy and don't knock yourself out.
Yeah,
you're young. 27. Is your knee doing good?
Yeah, my knee's good now.
Okay.
For the most part. And just I'm like I said, I think a big part of everything is just I've lost. Like I said, I'm in the best shape I've been in since I was 21. So everything feels better. Training feels better. I can do shit that I could still do back in the day. So everything's feeling good now. I think a big part of that whole mental shit I was talking about was just it's a little bit of immaturity too. Like, I came in before I was even I started training before I was even an adult. I didn't really realize how life worked or how things work or how, to go through real hardships or anything like that. And now I'm 27. I've been through a lot since then. And I feel like I'm able to handle the business mentally better.
Yeah.
And I want to point out, you bring up, there's a lot of negativity in the deathmatch wrestling. A lot of people talk a lot of crap, and there's just fans that wouldn't do that. But you have a lot of fans. A lot of people have been reaching out to me, and especially when I put a teaser out, I asked some questions for you. A lot of people were jumping on that. I want to give a shout out to the Deathmatch News guy, Anthony, title man for all death matches on Instagram. Great guy. He's a big fan of you, big supporter. You got a lot of guys that care about you, like what you do. Keep doing what you're doing. We like you guys. We support you guys.
I appreciate that, man. It just like when all the noise is around you, you really don't realize how many people actually truly appreciate what you do. But since I've left, I'll tell you, the amount of people that have talked, I got to give this motherfucker a shout out. You guys know Alex Nabiev, right?
Oh, hell yeah. Alex Nabiev.
Oh, we did an interview with him. You got to see it, man. You didn't see our interview?
I got to watch it for sure.
Yeah, you got to see it. It's got a lot of views.
Good.
We love
that crazy Russian bastard. He kept posting my matches in the on Facebook, the Murder Death Kill Club group. He just kept posting my matches, and this is when I'm a couple of years already out of wrestling, and seeing shit like that it meant a lot to me. And then hearing other people I miss that he would post a match and then people would comment and be like, I miss that motherfucker, he needs to come back, he needs to do he was good. Seeing all stuff like that is what also pushed me to come back.
If that guy could get over here, man, everybody would be jumping on him for shows.
100, dude. I guarantee you see him and Schlack have an XPW match in the future. They have to make that happen.
Yeah. See, we would have to. When we were doing the interview, I said, look, if you ever do come here, you got to pace yourself because he'll lose his mind in his first match. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He'll go nuts. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that dude is nuts for sure. But I'll give him a lot of fucking credit, man. Over the last couple of years, since he blew up with that guitar spot and everything. But since then, that dude's put in a lot of work, and he's become a fucking pretty goddamn good wrestler. When you watch his matches and watch his work over the last couple of years, especially, he's grown so much. And that just shows that he really does love this shit, and he really does want to fucking make a name for himself in it. So good on him. I love that guy, and I give him all the props in the world. I hope we do get him to the States.
Yeah, you'll love his interview. He used to take a 23-hour train ride from wherever the hell he lived to some other part of Russia. And we're like, what? He goes, yeah, and he'd get on the next day and come home and go to work. He works regular job. He just what
I respect about him, he does all this crazy stuff. He sets the bar high, pretty high.
Oh,
and
God.
he never talked shit on no one. Always positive.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
Always promoting other guys.
Mhm.
I respect that guy. We need more people like him.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Like that again. You know, he put me over, and I didn't know him. You know, from anything. I think we had talked. I think I sent him a message when he burnt the shit out of himself in the fire spot. I was just like, "Hey, you good?" Like I know because I've been burned really bad in the fire spot as well, and I was just like, "You okay, dude?" He's like, "No, I'm fucked up." But it's cool that you're messaging me, and since then, him and I have become friends, and I definitely I'm glad he's doing well. I think he's taking a little bit of a hiatus right now in wrestling, so I'm looking forward to his comeback.
Yeah, no.
What, did something happen?
I think he got some varicose vein thing taken care of, and he couldn't wrestle for 3 months. He should be coming back soon if he hasn't already, though.
Okay, yeah. He's something else.
So let's talk a little about your podcast, Flesh Wound Features. Fans can catch it on FleshWoundsfeatures.com, right?
Yep.
What do you guys talk about on there?
So Flesh Wound Features, basically it's majority a horror podcast, but then we also do other things too with other people, and we're all kind of involved in wrestling one way or the other. That's how we all know each other. But we talk horror movies on Flesh Wound Horror. We talk comedy movies on Flesh Wound Farce. We talk fucking porno and old school sleaze movies on Flesh Wound After Dark. And we also talk wrestling on Squared Circle Society. And they're constantly interviewing XPW superstars because that's like the main focus of Squared Circle Society now, because all of the guys on the show are huge XPW fans from back in the day, and they're so ecstatic about the return. So that's the focus of the wrestling side now. But you can get new horror movies being reviewed every Wednesday at 6 o'clock Pacific time. We review like 4 or 5 movies a week, and they're a majority like new stuff coming out. So yeah, that's what we've been doing. The podcast has been around for a while. I just started doing it back in 2020, so I'm like 3 years in with it now. But it's been a good time, and definitely a part of why I've also wanted to come back to wrestling, because those guys have been pushing me to do it for a while.
See,
oh hell yeah!
I've never known of deathmatch wrestlers that like horror movies. I mostly I thought they usually like those like Jennifer Aniston love triangle shows. They like Fonda loves those. I didn't know that. All the deathmatch I got knows they love. All the deathmatch guys I know, they love those chick flicks, like the
Along Came Polly, like Along Came Polly and shit like that.
Yeah, Scarlett Johansson stuff. Yeah,
Mike always talks about it. He's a big fan of them. So
yeah, right.
Sleepless in Seattle.
So if someone wants to catch you guys live, what time you said? 6 o'clock?
Yeah, 6 o'clock Pacific time. We're live every Wednesday, and talking new horror all the time. Also, like Flesh Wound Farce, we do on Mondays as well, and those are both live streams that we do every single week.
Oh, awesome. On FleshWoundFeatures.com.
Yeah, FleshWoundFeatures.com, Flesh Wound Features on YouTube as well, and if you want to subscribe to our Patreon as well, patreon.com/FleshWoundFeatures, because if you're interested in my wrestling career, there's going to be some exclusive content that you're not going to be able to see anywhere else, specifically on there. One of those things will be, there's going to be a short little, I would say probably like 10 or 15-minute video about me vlogging my experience up until my first match back after 4 years.
Oh, that's great.
Okay,
that's great.
You know, what kind of no, I like horror movies, but what kind of horror movie do you like the best? I mean, I like the Saw type, like Silence of the Lambs, the Saw. I like horror movies that are actually possible and probably happen. You know, when they find crazy stories. Which one do you like? Do you like the like Saw is something that a psycho could do, or
Yeah.
things like that, or do you like the slasher, the Friday the 13th, or the
paranormal?
Yeah, the paranormal. Yeah, I don't like
So,
the paranormal too much.
I'm a big slasher guy. I mean, my name's fucking Michael Krueger.
Oh, okay, I got you.
You know, but slasher movies are my number one. But my second favorite is just probably the most fucked up shit you could find. Like movies that make you extremely uncomfortable. You're like, you gotta look in the mirror afterwards and be like, why the fuck did I just watch that thing? But it was kind of awesome.
Oh yeah. Like that one. Somebody told me the Caterpillar movie. Did you ever see
Oh
that?
yeah. Human Centipede, shit like that.
Yeah. Human Centipede. Somebody told me to watch it. I'm like, what is it? I've never heard of it.
Did you ever watch Midnight Meat Train?
Oh yeah, of course.
That's good.
Fucking,
I don't know.
I love that movie.
Classic.
Great kill scene where somebody gets their eyeball knocked out of their fucking head with a hammer.
Yeah.
Okay. What about old horror movies? Like old ones?
Yeah, I mean, I love all types of horror, man. Like, you know, that's kind of been my outside of wrestling. Like horror movies are my life too. So I like all the classics, like you know, Creature from the Black Lagoon. I mean, that's one of my favorite. Actually, you could see I got a Creature from the Black Lagoon poster right there. I'm a big fan of all of that. I also like giant monster movies. I'm a big Godzilla fan, and you know, Gamera, all that great stuff too.
Do you remember the first horror movie you seen? You watched as a kid?
Man, I mean, this is kind of up in the air if you could call it a horror movie, but like Godzilla was like my first introduction to loving movies. But like I remember I saw a lot young. Like, you know, I started watching Nightmare on Elm Street movies when I was like fucking 5, maybe 4 years old, because my dad was so into them. I mean, there was always Nightmare on Elm Street, Chucky, or fucking Hellraiser playing like on the old school box TV.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I like the Saw type of it. Not just the Saw, but like horror movies that are like real that could happen. That's what I like. The horror movies that could happen.
My first horror movie introduction to the horror movie was I wasn't allowed to watch it. My parents would say no, but I snuck the Blair Witch Project. I snuck it from my cousin's house and watched it. Remember that Blair Witch Project?
I never saw.
Oh
that.
Yeah.
It's different.
Back in the day, dude, that movie was scary as shit. I remember even being like a little kid, and it had been out for years. That was like the thing that you watched at the sleepovers to scare the fuck out of everybody.
Oh yeah,
thrillers,
because they pushed it as it was being real.
Yeah. I like thriller movies that could have like someone being chased or I like those
crazy stuff.
I like all kinds of movies. But
so let's talk a little about your return, CCW Violent World, back in March 30th. You I believe it was with Clint Margera, Kid Bandit was in a match with you.
Yeah, so it was a 6-man battle royal, and like 6-man battle royal death match scramble. I don't really even know how to describe the match, but 2 people started in the ring, and then every 90 seconds somebody else came out with a weapon. So it was Kid Bandit, Hardcore, Clint Margera, Princess Deathwish, Terex, and me. And I was the last entrant, came out, you know, fucked Terex up with a gusset plate bat, took probably unnecessary amounts of damage with a gusset plate bat myself, and got the win over Terex. It was really cool coming out and hearing people go, "What the fuck? He's back!" That like there was somebody like right by the entrance that said that shit. And it really, like, at that point, I was good. Like, I was very nervous up until the match. Obviously, you know, I hadn't wrestled in 4 years. I'd been training my ass off, which in turn, you'd think, you know, you're training your ass off. You're going to be okay. Fucking, you weren't training before and you were okay too. But for whatever reason, I was very nervous. And I came in, and once I heard that person go, "What the fuck? He's back." All those nerves left, and it felt like I was doing it like back in the day. It was really, really cool experience. I wish I would have got a little bit more time. I think I was only out there for like 5 minutes, but those 5 minutes, like everything felt right in the world again, which was nice. And I'm excited to see where we're gonna go from here.
You pay attention to when you're in a death match or any match like that. Are you paying attention? What do you hear about the fan when the fans yell something out, like or like you're beating someone up and you're hitting them and you're like hit him with it, get him. Do you feed off the fans? Do the wrestlers feed off the fans?
I think absolutely. I mean, there's times you could hear somebody, like you could watch a death match and you can hear hit him with that, and then next thing you know, the person would hit him with it. But yeah, you definitely feed off the fans. I think, especially like if the worst thing in the world is being in the ring and then people are absolutely silent. Like I know in Japan that's like a respect thing, but fucking in the States, if they're completely silent, you got something to worry about. You got to figure out a way to draw them back in. So yeah, you're always feeding off of them, I think. And I think there's not enough people. Like back in the day, a lot more. I saw this a lot more. A lot of people don't know when to like take it the fuck home. Like sometimes you don't need all the shit you talked about beforehand. If you have them somewhere, just fucking have them there, take them home, take them on the ride, and like let's not lose them at the highest point. So you're always definitely listening for the fans and seeing how they're reacting to stuff.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You know, the Japanese guys, you're right, they're very. Have you ever watched Big Japan and all those guys have like, you'll see guys with suits in the front row, right?
Oh yeah.
Right. But you'll never see anybody with a suit other than like Larry Legend or somebody in an American. I mean, you would look, can you imagine if you saw 5 guys in suits, businessmen that are like 40 years old, 50 years old in suits at an IWA Mid-South tournament?
Yeah.
It would look weird, right?
Yeah.
Well, Pondo told me, I said, what's up with those guys in the suits in the middle of the show? Like, he goes, those tickets are very, very expensive. And usually those are like business guys that are coming out of work. And, you know, they go to work in suits in Japan more than they do here. And they will be sitting in those expensive seats right out of work. Because, you know, the work ethic, they work a lot of hours. So he says some of those guys will work right up to the minute they got to go to the show. And he'll just leave with their suit on and go to the show.
Imagine having to get that motherfucker dry cleaned with all the blood and glass in it.
Yeah. But I mean, that was what the story was about those guys in suits. I'm like, why are they wearing suits? I thought they were dressing up because no, these guys got money and these seats are very expensive ringside Big Japan. And they're coming out right after the work to the thing wearing a suit.
Well, I think deathmatch wrestling in Japan is definitely respected a little bit more than it is here in the States as well.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's the place to be if you want. Like, I feel like that's most deathmatch wrestlers' dream is to eventually get a chance to go and work Japan. At least that's what it was for me, and I know a lot of other people too.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Pondo's been there 44 times.
Fucking wild.
How do you? I mean, gee, I can't imagine going anywhere 44 times.
Yeah.
So when's the next time we can see you in the ring?
So as of right now, I will be on the next CCW show in California. I should have had this date ready beforehand. But it's at the beginning of July, and that will be their next show.
Awesome.
I'll also say you may see me pop up in Vegas at Versus Pro Wrestling eventually. Not sure exactly when, but we're thinking about the end of May. So go follow their page and check them out because you'll see my face there soon.
That's awesome.
Okay, good. Yeah, well, maybe if there's a call out for the California too. Oh, yeah. Are you available if they need to call you? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be available for sure.
All right, maybe somebody go see that. You know what? We like to ask. We did this little food thing with the wrestlers.
Okay.
What do you? We got different things out here than you got out there. When I go out there, I used to like the. It was called Soup Plantation.
Okay.
You guys got In-N-Out Burger in Arizona, don't you?
Yeah.
What do you like that when you were in Mid-South? Did you eat anywhere that you don't have there, or did you go to any restaurants out here on the eastern area that you have never been to?
Honestly, no. I think when I went to Mid-South, I think we went to a fucking Waffle House. I'm not sure. It was like Waffle House was one of those fucking old school diner places.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Did you like that? Because they don't have them out in California, right?
I mean they have Waffle Houses in Arizona, so like that's a typical place to hit up, especially when you're drunk at like 4 a.m.
It's made it all the way to Arizona, Waffle House.
Yeah, there's a lot of them down here, man.
I didn't know that because they were an East Coast thing. They started in like Georgia or South Carolina, then they came north. I didn't know they made it all the way out there. Wow.
Oh yeah, dude. I swear to God, I have one like not even a mile away from my house.
Oh, wow.
The Waffle House that has the waffle,
expanding.
The yellow and black sign.
Yep.
There's one a mile away from here too.
Yeah, I know, but I didn't know they were all the way to the West Coast.
Yeah, well, dude, that's the pro wrestler place. Like after a show to go to, dude.
Yeah.
My buddy, awesome Andy, back in the day, dude, he was obsessed with just Waffle House merch, and he would come on the road and be like, "Look at my Waffle House keys. Look at my like that." That is, I think that and Denny's are probably synonymous with pro wrestling nowadays.
Well, no, the East Coast is. Have you ever heard of Wawa?
Yeah. I haven't ever been, but I've heard of it.
Well, that's popular because it's open 24 hours a day. Big Joe, all these guys, they go there and you go on a kiosk and you put what you want. Short sub, 6-inch, 8-inch, mayonnaise, and you just press the button, and they're quick. They got like 5 people back there cooking. You don't even.
That's wild.
And then you check out what restaurants do you want to try that you've heard from the East Coast and you've never been to, like White Castle, anything like that?
Oh man, yeah, White Castle would be great. That's like you know, down here we don't have any, and you just you get that shitty store-bought grocery store frozen White Castle hamburgers. That's the best you got. I want to try the real shit.
What do you want to try? I'm sorry, you froze up for a second. What are you trying to try out here?
Oh, the White Castle. Absolutely.
There's one in Vegas.
No, I don't think there's no.
When I went to Vegas, we had White Castle.
You had a White Castle?
In Vegas.
In Vegas?
Fremont Street, yep.
Damn.
Maybe the gimmick, maybe because it's Vegas, they put it there. Yeah.
It was good. It was good. If you're in Vegas, Fremont Street, they had a White Castle there.
Well, I know where I'm gonna fucking be at the end of May now.
Well, maybe you get a. What about Cracker Barrel? Have you ever heard of Cracker Barrel?
Oh yeah, we have a ton of them down here.
They made it out there too. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. My ex actually worked there.
Okay, we will trade you 3 White Castles for 2 In-N-Out burgers.
In-N-Out burgers are great, man.
See, my problem with In-N-Out is it's so popular that the fucking line every time you want to go to that place is like it's wrapped around the goddamn building. So I never go, but I have one right by my house.
Oh man, we'd be there.
The White, I believe, I could be wrong. When I went there in 2018, I went to the Lucha Expo. In Vegas, we went to the White Castle at like 4 a.m. I believe it was over. Yep. Back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I got to try some authentic White Castle once in my life. Hopefully, I get booked for in the East Coast somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Kevin Brennan Carnage Cup. You'd probably fit in good with that group.
I was actually supposed to do that before I tore my ACL.
Oh man. Yeah, he likes your gimmick type of thing.
Yeah, I actually felt bad. He bought my ticket and everything, and but then I got hurt, so I couldn't do it.
Oh man, well, God, maybe he'll buy. Maybe he'll. I don't know.
Maybe we'll get out here. So.
I want to get to that. We've been. If you don't know where we live in Smyrna, Delaware, and that's where all the CZWs have their tournaments in this area. DJ Hyde's farm is like 15 minutes away.
Oh,
we
that's
grew up
awesome.
going to CZW.
That's wild.
We just did a video. We just dropped a video yesterday with Drake. Drake was in the area. We took him to the TOD3 venue.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to check that out. I'm a huge fan of fucking the TODs, man.
Yeah.
Like growing up, like those were the fucking DVDs to have.
Oh yeah.
Right. I don't know if you've ever seen. I made a video with a guy named Luke Hadley. It's called "The History of CZW in Delaware," and I went to all the venues and talked about them.
That sounds actually familiar. I feel like I may have seen that actually.
Yeah, and I went to where Zandig and Mondo went off the roof, and we were measuring it and all that kind of stuff. And then
Yeah, I've seen that video. Holy shit!
That was me
Oh no shit!
pointing.
That's
And
fucking
then at
crazy.
the end, I went to the little raggedy airport and acted like it was a big shit. But we went to all the venues. I live right down the street from Breakaway Tavern. Yeah, he did a Drake video, and yeah, check that stuff out. He's got Valencia Society.
Yeah, I know what I'm going to be doing after this interview.
Okay, and the Nabib is a good one, and we did poor JJ Escobar.
Oh man, yeah. I feel bad for that kid for sure.
I know he's had the worst. I mean, he would trade anything for a ACL. He's had ridiculous burns in 1 year.
Yeah.
He broke his femur, tibia, and other fibia in a car accident on black ice, and then he fell off that balcony.
Yeah, I heard he's got like some vertebrae damage. I feel bad for him. Hope he gets better, man. And like, you know, I saw his post and he was talking about, you know, hopefully eventually coming back. And I hope if that's what he wants, his body heals and he's able to do that.
Yeah, they run POR stunts Grand Prix. That's on IWTV.
Yeah, I've seen some of those just clips being posted on Facebook. Shit is absolutely ridiculous.
Oh yeah. And he'll bring in for the big tournament he has. They bring in like Matt Justice, Satu Jin, Neil Diamond. I've gone to a few of them. Yeah, they're good. It's a good party scene. Free parking, free admission. You can bring your own beer. You can pee on the grass. Yeah, I mean,
sounds like a good time.
Oh yeah. Yep, that's good.
So some of the fans like buying masks and memorabilia. Do you ever sell your masks?
So I've only had this one and then another one that I kind of switch on and off from. This one's old as fuck though, and like I felt bad like when I finally took my gear out of like the box it's been sitting in after 4 years. Like my shit's like all kind of deformed now. Like you could see, it used to be way smoother. So no, I only have the 2 masks. I've thought about getting other ones made, but just for what it is, it's kind of expensive if you want to do something like that, because it's made out of latex and stuff. But hopefully eventually I'll get some merch out there. Maybe I'll get this mask put on a little wrestle buddy or something like that.
Awesome.
Okay, yeah.
Do you have any merch for sale?
Not currently, but that will be changing soon. So you can follow my Instagram at Michael Krueger Lives 666. You can also follow me on Facebook and stay tuned because I will have some merch stuff probably posted within the next couple of months.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, see, you got a good gimmick because the monster stuff transfers to other. You know, I see a lot of people, a lot of shirts. I like the wrestler, but I don't like their shirt. I'm like, You know, I want to wear something that is like that. See, you could come up with a gimmick shirt that people that don't even like wrestling like. They might like horror movies or something. Yeah. You know, kind of like the guy from Japan that does all those wrestler shirts.
Oh yeah, dude, those are the best.
I mean, anybody would wear that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't even matter who the wrestler is. It just looks fucking badass as fuck. Yeah.
Right.
JD Horror got one of those done by him, and I remember buying one of his shirts just because it looks so fucking sick.
Oh yeah, I've got some. I've had like a brain damage.
He's on.
I got a Sarah Logan when Crazy Mary before she went to WWF. That's a limited. I got to show. Did I ever show you that? Yeah. That's a limited edition there, man. They made very few of those. That was way back.
Yeah, I hopefully we'll have something similar to that style coming up pretty soon.
That's good.
Anything else? Anything you want to ask us?
Anything? Yeah.
Just like for both of you guys, because I talk to normal people about deathmatch wrestling and they're just like, what the fuck? So what brought you guys into this realm of just loving this crazy niche style of wrestling?
Okay. Well, it goes way back to me. I used to go to ECW.
Yeah.
You know, like after Barely Legal. And a guy told me, I was, like, this is crazy, this is wild. He goes, no, I don't know his name. No, Craig Pendergrass. Yeah. But before that, a guy was telling me, he says, there's crazier stuff than this. I'm like, what? He goes, there's IWA Ian Rotten. And I'm like, oh. And the guy made me a tape of a IWA Mid-South. And I watched it. And I'm like, wow, this is crazier. And then he got me into FMW, right?
Oh, fuck
so
yeah.
It was crazier. And then Big Japan. And then when ECW folded, CZW came around. And I went to CZW. And I'd go to we're relatively close to Ian's area. We'd go to a bunch of guys would go to Ian Rotten's tournaments. I mean, we did like Necro winning and different things. Nate Webb, Roland Hart, all those guys, Corporal Robinson, we know all them good. And then I go to CZW, and then I branch off to Pondo's tournament down there. Then we'd go to Carnage Cup, and that's how I got. I was always amazed at the deathmatch wrestling, and I liked it. But I like everything. I'll watch high flying. I'll watch comedy. I'll watch strong style. I just don't. One thing I don't like is appearing WWF legend from and a family oriented show, children free.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not going to that.
You don't like the WWE legend?
No. Here's a show I will not go to. If the flyer says legend, children friendly, $5 kids. Local fire hall. I'm like, no, I'm not going.
I've been on some of those shows. I know exactly what you're talking about, and I don't blame you.
Right. The guy talking on the phone, and then the legend does nothing.
Yeah.
Not that I'm dissing them. I mean, they're making their money, but I just got to pick and choose what I go to. Yeah. We're on the East Coast. We're right near. We're an hour from Philly, and we're an hour from Tremont, and we're like 2.5 from XPW. So we don't have time for any like bubblegum stuff. Yeah.
I started watching it in 2002. I found I think it was called Wrestling World Magazine. It had on the cover of the magazine had Zandig bleeding and had like one of the XPW girls half naked on there. I picked it up because I was a big WWF fan, WCW fan growing up. So I was like, oh, what is this? And going through it, I seen that they were running a show at the arena. I didn't even know wrestling was still running in the arena. So I got my dad to go. It was in February 2002. And I remember being hooked on it ever since then. Lobo and Zandig was the main event. You had the Dangerous Women of Wrestling girls on there. The show opened up with Chris Cash and GQ and Chris Cash did a crazy bump. The opening match, crazy bump.
Yeah.
All doing team.
Yeah.
And I've been ever since XPW came to town a few months afterward.
Yeah.
And I checked that out,
Yeah, I was at XPW when it was in Philly.
Oh, nice.
Remember when Lizzie Borden got thrown off missed the table completely and landed flat on concrete?
Yep.
I was right there.
I do.
I'm like, oh God.
Yeah.
But did you see the Zandig dinner when Schlack came in and spit on Zandig?
I did. Yeah, I did watch that.
You saw that?
Yeah.
We were there.
Oh, you were?
Yeah, Schlack kicked me out of it.
Did the fries really suck?
No, man. You got to go there. Pete King Diner, Pete King Buffet. It was the best, man. I must have gone back and forth so many times. It was only like $14.99. It's really good. No.
Those are my fries. Just for the record, that was my plate. Schlack.
Was it?
That was
my
fucking fries.
Great.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
We organized that dinner.
Oh, dude, I popped pretty hard for that. That shit was fucking hilarious.
Yeah,
good. It's awesome to see Zandig in the Hall of Fame, the GCW Indie Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that's really cool. I hope eventually we do get that Zandig and Schlack match because just watching as a fan, I've always wanted to see it.
Oh yeah. I think we will. I think we will.
Everybody speaks high of Zandy. They all look up to him because he's always been respected, highly respected, and it's too bad the Ultraviolet Underground didn't come through, but maybe you can do something. I don't know.
Yeah. Ah, dude, he's a fucking legend. Like, he's deathmatch wrestling. I don't think would be as popular if it wasn't for him and the crazy shit he's done. So
absolutely. There's a Mount Rushmore of deathmatch wrestling. He would be up.
Oh, absolutely.
God, Mount Rushmore would be hard to put anybody. You need like a whole road, like 30 guys. Jude Kasai.
Yeah, I mean, him and Masada got to be on there, in my opinion. Masada, Jun Kasai, Necro, and Zandig, I would say, would be mine.
We were at the Oneida Tremont Stadium show. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did.
We were there. We're about an hour and a half from there. We're really in a good area. I don't want to make you feel bad, but we're right near all that stuff. That was a great outdoor show. It felt like you were in FMW.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it looked really cool. It reminded me of the old days back when they used to do their stadium shows. Like those old FMW crazy shit where they were doing like the pool death matches and that stuff. That was all awesome.
Have you ever seen, there's a guy named Brett, FMW Brett, something like that. He's got an incredible lineage of documentary from like, it's like hundreds of hours of documentary about FMW. Have you ever come across that?
No, I'm going to now though, for sure.
Oh no, you got to see it, man. It started out with the Oneida documentary. He's got all this footage of Oneida, like as a kid and the dojo and Baba and all.
I got to see that, dude. I'm a big Japanese wrestling fan.
Listen, it's called what's the guy named Brett?
I forget
something. It's easy to find on YouTube. He's got his own Facebook. I can't even watch all of it. This guy puts so much into it. It's like who's that guy that does all those documentaries for sports? That something. It's unbelievable. He's probably got hundreds of hours of documentary. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I gotta check that out because.
Oh yeah, no, you won't be. I mean, you could just watch hours and hours of it.
Absolutely, we'll send you that link.
I'm trying to. Yeah.
Yeah.
FMW Brett. You'll see it.
Yeah, I'll definitely check it out.
Is there anything else you need to plug? You want to plug?
No, just like I said, FleshWoundsfeatures.com, FleshWoundsfeatures on YouTube, patreon.com/FleshWoundsfeatures. Stay tuned for that exclusive video of the vlog of me up until. Other than that, I think that's all I got right now.
And we're going to catch you at the next CCW show.
Yeah, yes, sir. Yeah, I will be there.
In the death match.
Yeah, it's just Brett FMW, and he's got 207 videos, a lot of documentaries.
Word. I'm gonna look that up right now for sure. That definitely sounds right up my alley. Like I said, Japanese wrestling is my fucking.
Thanks a lot, man, and thanks for being.
Krueger, thank you. Yeah, thank you for joining us.
And
we're gonna catch you next Sunday at 6.
Yeah, sounds good, man.
Hey, thanks again.
I hope to see you sometime, man. I hope to see you.
Hope to see you out here on the East Coast soon.
Yeah, well, I hope so too. We'll see what the next couple of months brings, but I'm definitely excited for this comeback. So,
absolutely.
Well, appreciate what you do, buddy.
Appreciate what you do. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Cause I don't give a fuck what you say. Yeah, I'ma do shit my way. So you can go kick rocks, I'ma stack bricks up, build what I want to make.
Yo, I got a lot of shit to say, so I'ma do this every day. I'll be writing things until I'm fucking buried in my grave. 6 feet deep under, but my body won't decay. Cause my messages are timeless, so they'll put them on display. Oh yeah, I rap with a certainty, I have a sense of urgency. A message for eternity, for everyone internally. I had some people burning me, but now they fucking learn to see I